Jai Nitilila Pravishtam Viṣṇu Pad Paramhamsa Parivajikacharya Stottara Shatashi Śrīmad Bhakti Siddhanta Bhakti Vedanta Prabhupada Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Nitilila Pravishtam Viṣṇu Pad Paramhamsa Parivajikacharya Stottara Shatashi Śrīmad Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada Maharaj Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaiṣṇava Vrinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्णा चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासरी गौर भक्त वृंद की जाय. श्री श्री राध गो गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंद राध कुंद गिरि गोवर्धन की जाय. वृंदावन धाम की जाय. मायापुर नवद्वीप धाम की जाय. जमुना माई गंगा माई की जाय. भक्ति देवी तुलसी महारानी की जाय. समवेत भक्त वृंद की जाय. निताय गौर प्रेमानंदी हरि हरि बोल. Glorious to the Samudavaris Hare Krishna. Oh glorious to the Samudavaris Hare Krishna. Oh glorious to the Samudavaris Hare Krishna. Oh glorious to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. Oh glorious to Srila Prabhupada Jagat Shri Guru Shri Prabhupada ki jai. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami. Namaste Saraswati Devi. Okay, so I have no idea where this is going to go. I shouldn't be here for many reasons, but I'll try my best. Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Okay, so Canto 4, Chapter 22, Text 8. Okay, here we go. Kim tasya dhura bhattaram bharataram iha loke paratracha yasya vipraha prasidhanti Śivo Viṣṇuscha sanugaha. Kim tasya dhura bharataram iha loke paratracha yasya vipraha prasidhanti Śivo Viṣṇuscha sanugaha. Kim tasya dhura bhataram bharataram iha loke paratracha yasya vipraha prasidhanti Śivo Viṣṇuscha sanugaha. Prabhuji's. Tasya dulapataram iha loke paratracha yasya vipraha prasidhanti Śivo Viṣṇuscha sanugaha. Kim tasya dulapataram iha loke paratracha yasya vipraha prasidhanti Śivo Viṣṇuscha sanugaha. Kim tasya tura bharataram iha loke paratracha iha prasidanti Śiva Viṣṇuscha sanagaha. Mataji. Kim tasya dhula parataram iha loke paratracha yassa vipra prasiddhanti Śiva Viṣṇuscha sanugaha. Kim, what? Tasya, his. Dhulabha dharam, very rare to achieve. Iha, in this world. Loke, world. Paratra, after death. Cha, or yasya, one whose. Vipraha, the brāhmaṇas and the Vaiṣṇavas. Prasiddhanti, become pleased. Śiva, all auspicious. Viṣṇu, Lord Viṣṇu. Cha, as well as. Sa anugaha, going along with. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Maharaj Ki Jai. Any person upon whom the brāhmaṇas and Vaiṣṇavas are pleased can achieve anything which is rare to obtain in this world, as well as after death. Not only that, but one also receives the favor of the auspicious Lord Śiva and Lord Viṣṇu, who accompany the brāhmaṇas and Vaiṣṇavas. Purport. The brāhmaṇas and Vaiṣṇavas are the bearers of Lord Viṣṇu, the all-auspicious, as confirmed in the Brahma Samhita. Pramagya charita bhakti vilochena sanataha sadhaiva hrideshu vilokayanti yam shyama sundaram achintya guna svarupam govindam adipurusham tamaham bhajami. The devotees, out of their extreme love for Govinda, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, always carry the Lord within their heart. The Lord is already in the heart of everyone, but the Vaiṣṇavas and the brāhmaṇas actually perceive and see him always in ecstasy. Therefore, brāhmaṇas and Vaiṣṇavas are carriers of Viṣṇu. Wherever they go, Lord Viṣṇu, Lord Śiva, or the devotees of Lord Viṣṇu are all carried. The four Kumaras are brāhmaṇas, and they visited the place of Maharaj Prithu. Naturally, Lord Viṣṇu and his devotees were also present. Under the circumstances, the conclusion is that when the brāhmaṇas and the Vaiṣṇavas are pleased with a person, Lord Viṣṇu is also pleased. This is confirmed by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur in his 8 stanzas on the spiritual master, Yasat Prasada and Bhagavat Prasadaha. By pleasing the spiritual master, who is both Brahmana and Vaishnav, one pleases the Supreme Personality of Godhead. If the Supreme Personality of Godhead is pleased, then one has nothing more to achieve either in this world or after death. Om Ajnanatirmirandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Karamayam Dadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Parakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrachatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvetam Savatutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Param Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sithe Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Namo Mahavaranyaya Krishna Pramapadayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gora Tvishe Namaha Vancha Kalpa Turupyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhayevacha Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Garadhara Shrivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Excellent. So I think there's nothing more constructive to discuss than further understanding how we can obtain the mercy of the Vaiṣṇavas and the brāhmaṇas, and by obtaining the mercy, by pleasing them, obviously coming closer to Krishna. As Prabhupada has said in the purport, he's quoting Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's Gurvastakam, Sri Gurvastakam, Yasyat Prasara Bhagavat Prasara Yasya Prasara Nakati Kutopi. Prabhupada, earlier in this chapter, the official translation is by receiving the grace of the spiritual master, one receives the grace of Krishna. But Prabhupada goes further to say that by pleasing the senses of the spiritual master, one pleases the senses of Krishna. So, we must seek out the Vaiṣṇavas and the Guru in order to win their favor in some way, to give service to them, and then ultimately please them and then please Krishna. If we think that it's possible to bypass the spiritual master or the sadhu or association with the Vaiṣṇavas, we've made a miscalculation in our journey. Bhakti is like a stream, like a river that flows to the sea, and the sea is rasa with Krishna, engaging in mellows with Krishna, and eventually we get there. But what is the driving force of this river? It is sadhu sangha. And to the degree that you have sadhu sangha, strong sadhu sangha, to that same degree you're making rapid advancement. Without the force, the river slows down, and then when it slows down, it eventually becomes stagnant water. And if we go out into nature and we see what happens in places where the force of the river or stream has halted, the water starts to become dirty and murky. So naturally, when sadhu sangha ceases, it corresponds with anatta nimritti, coming back, in the sense that due to our conditioning in the past, we've accumulated all this dust, cheto darpana marjanam, and we have to cleanse it. And we have that, say these anarthas or these karmic, these conditionings, it's like a fan that's spinning, right? And when you surrender to Guru, then the fan is switched off. And when you start bhajan, the fan is switched off. But it's still spinning. But slowly it's slowing down. And eventually when we receive the full grace of Guru and we are very nishta, very fixed, then the fan stops entirely. However, if we entertain our conditionings again, the fan is turned back on. So it's this... it's just extra effort on our behalf, because we have this fan slowed down to a certain degree, we have our anarthas slowed down, and our habits of selfishness, it slows down. However, and we've gotten to a certain point, but then even if we turn it on for a second, even if we turn it on, it gradually comes back to speed, and and we find ourselves losing taste, and we wonder why we're losing taste. And so, yes, we must take sadhu sangha, because by doing so, we are constantly like a cloud pours, like at the start of the Gurvastakam, just as a cloud pours water on a forest fire to extinguish it, the spiritual master extinguishes the forest fire of worldly existence. And so, this material condition, we'll continue to be blazing in this material condition until we sufficiently bathe in the mercy of the Guru. And some, in the early days, some disciples of Srila Prabhupada asked, Prabhupada, like, how can I receive your mercy? They said something along this lines, and he says, there is already infinite amounts of mercy accessible to you. It's just it's just how much you want to utilize it. We have, look at the beautiful example of Sripad Ayendra Das. He is a quintessential example of a disciple that has fully maximized the mercy that is flowing from the Guru, from Chaitanya, from Guru and Gauranga. But, we're very relaxed in our Krishna consciousness. And so if we're relaxed in our Krishna consciousness, we're not accessing the full potential of the mercy. But if you look at Ayendra, what does he do? To begin with, in his career, he's doing average at least 8 hours a day of Sankirtan, book distribution as well, chanting very staunch japa, and this is all the years that he's in America. He's doing things such as constructing a mobile temple, so he can take a temple with deities out onto the street, park it in the most busy, Mayic conditioned places in the world, park it, open up the temple, and then do kirtan there for 8 hours. Such efforts he's going to serve the movement of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And he's trying very anxiously to maintain the Yuga Dharma of Nam Sankirtan, but he's not feeling so inspired. So what does he do? He moves to Vrindavan, and when in Vrindavan, he's like an embodiment of tapasya, of austerity. He's following the footsteps of the Goswamis. The Goswamis never had shelter. They didn't have beds. They would simply sleep under the trees of Vrindavan. So what does Ayendra Prabhu do? In his room, he's like, okay, well, it's not so realistic, unfortunately, that I can live under the trees. But at least I can sleep on the dust of Vrindavan. So he gets his bucket and he gets a shovel and he takes buckets of the dust of Braj to his room, and he makes his bed the dust of Braj. Unfortunately, what happens is there's many bugs in the dust, and so he wakes up and he's being bitten from head to toe. He got severely infected from that process. But just think of that mentality. He's following precisely in the footsteps of the Goswamis. And then one day he's doing his seva at Krishna Balaram Mandir in Vrindavan, and I believe it is one of his godbrothers comes up to him, and the godbrother is very disturbed. He had a dream, and Prabhupada came to him in his dream, and Prabhupada was crying in this dream, and he was saying, "Where is my 24-hour kirtan mandali? Where is my 24-hour kirtan? Where has it gone? I established this," because originally Prabhupada actually established a 24-hour kirtan in Krishna Balaram Mandir, but when he passed away, people just got relaxed with it, and then as soon as you become relaxed with it, it just goes away. And so by divine intervention, this devotee happens to, the first devotee he sees is Ayendra, and so he comes up to Ayendra and he tells his story. And they're both hearing this story, and they're both weeping by hearing the fact Prabhupada is lamenting so much that there's no 24-hour kirtan program. And then so Ayendra instantly recognizes this as a direct message to him. You know, who else is going to do it? You know, who else is going to make that happen? Who else has that? I mean, you know, credit to many devotees who would have faith to execute it, but in this circumstance, it was destined to be Ayendra. And he had that strong faith, you know, because in that moment you could be doubtful. Okay, this devotee had this dream, and you know, it could just be a dream, and you know, I have nothing to do with it. He's just telling me about it. But he had the faith to go, no, this is my Guru Maharaj speaking directly to me, asking me, please start this 24-hour kirtan program. And then so what does Ayendra do? He doesn't have any funding. Upon his own efforts, he acquires different instruments, microphones, all these things, all these necessities to start the 24-hour kirtan program. And to begin with, it's just him. He's the one sitting there, and he's trying to establish this 24-hour kirtan program. And then eventually, you know, people see his seriousness and his bhav and his you know, his deep enthusiasm to really serve this mission. And just a sidetrack, think about this, like you have the epicenter of bhakti yoga, Vrindavan, Gokul Vrindavan, the Vrindavan in the material world, even in the material world it's not material, but you know, you have this epicenter. How potent is it that to have in the epicenter of spiritual practice, of the highest conception of yoga, bhakti yoga, to have a place like that 24 hours doing kirtan. A little fact about the spiritual sound vibrations of the Maha Mantra. So regular sound vibrations, when they are vibrated, they actually, we don't hear it, but they reverberate throughout the entire world. And even if you don't hear them, they reverberate throughout the entire world. But they only do it a number of times before that vibration entirely dissipates. However, the Maha Mantra, it never dissipates. So it's eternally nourishing the whole world. And, you know, even if, you know, there is so much chaos going on in the world, just having that constant vibration of the Maha Mantra 24/7 within the heart of Vrindavan, you know, is incredibly, incredibly purifying for the whole atmosphere of the world. You know, and there might be an argument said that, you know, Ayendra, you know, he wasn't very conventional in the sense that, you know, he was very renounced, but he was more almost like considered a bhajananda, like someone who just does bhajan. But actually, he had a very staunch mood of outreach. Just because he chose to reside in Vrindavan didn't mean that he didn't have compassion for the fallen conditioned souls. As we hear, like the Vaiṣṇavas, they always have vanchakalpatarubhascha kripa sindhu bhayavita. They always have compassion for the fallen conditioned souls. And Ayendra wasn't devoid of this. You know, but he had a strong belief in making sure that yourself is spiritually fit. Because to the degree that you are spiritually fit, to that same degree you can save someone else. But, you know, we know the classic saying that if you're in an airplane, you put on your oxygen mask before you put on another's. Because what is the use of trying to put on someone else's oxygen mask if you yourself are suffocating? So if you yourself are suffocating from the pangs of material existence, you're not going to be much effect to other people. And Ayendra felt a strong need to reside in the holy Dham, which is, you know, one of the limbs of Adi Bhakti described in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu? I believe it is, to reside in Mathura. So actually it is highly advised that we reside in the holy Dham. And so he does so. But what does he do? He establishes a very popular 24-hour kirtan program where you have like thousands of pilgrims coming every year and tourists who are curious about, this way of life. And he establishes that no matter at what time of day they come and they hear Maha Mantra, they hear the holy name. That's very outreach centered. Not only this, not for his own self-aggrandizement or self-glorification, but he begins recording these kirtans, and he finds opportunity to play them on different TV channels across India. And so you have these incredible recordings of Ayendra's kirtans. If you go onto YouTube, you see a lot of them, and they're incredible, and it just really captures the bhav of Vrindavan in these recordings. So that you've got that limb of outreach as well, that he's broadcasting it to the world, saying, come, see what this is about. Not only that, for many reasons, he decides to make albums. So this was actually recommended by Kadamba Karana Swami Maharaj. Ayendra was struggling to fund the 24-hour kirtan program, and so he needed some way to bring in some revenue. So Kadamba Karana Swami Maharaj said, why don't you make some kirtan albums? He says, oh no, I don't know, it seems too self-centered or whatever. And Ayendra had that mindset, but then Kadamba Karana Swami was like, no, this is always for the pleasure of Krishna. One, you get to broadcast this mood of Braja. You get to share what the heart of a Brajvasi is like to the world. You inspire people to come to Vrindavan, and at the same time, you fund the 24-hour kirtan program. So he said, very well. And then what does he do? He makes these incredible kirtan albums. When I remember when I first heard at the beginning of Chintamani Nam, when the first opening bhajan, I was just like instant deep inspiration to inquire deeper into the nature of the mood of Vrindavan, and maybe I didn't have the depth to appreciate his level of bhav, but the way he expressed himself musically, the way he expressed his bhav musically, because I've always grown up with music, so it so deeply touched my heart, even if it was on a material level. And I'm not an only case, like hundreds of devotees were inspired by Ayendra, and doing so, hearing his albums, they either moved to Vrindavan or were inspired to serve the Sankirtan movement of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So, it's incredible service. And, not only that, he's, he also, he spent a long time as well, many occasions he spent in Mayapur as well. He eventually got convinced he spent something like 23 years in Vrindavan before he went to Mayapur for the first time. But he was convinced, and then he realized very quickly that, Mayapur was non-different from Vrindavan, so he spent a lot of time there. But anyway, I'm rambling about Ayendra now. But I can't even remember the original point, but yeah. Mercy of Sadhu. Yeah. It's all flowing in that direction. So, the devotees, out of extreme love for Govinda, always carry the Lord within their heart. So, that's the other thing about Ayendra's mood. I'm just gonna dovetail this to Ayendra now. Sorry. Hare Krishna. So, yes, we see that Ayendra, he spent his time in the Dham, but as we said, you can't save others. You can't give bhakti unless you have bhakti. And Ayendra was very serious, like his internal bhajan. He chanted something ridiculous, like something like 113 rounds a day, And there's some conversations with his fellow brahmacharis, like, it's during Kartik, and he's like, I'm behind on my rounds today. I'm only at 108. Like, you know what I mean? Like, he had that mood. Apparently it was even said that he got to doing, on average, one round would take 4 minutes. And he had this very incredible way of chanting, where it was to, because he's chanting all day, so to preserve his energy, it was always a whisper. So it was like, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare. And he wouldn't stop to breathe. So then he would, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama. Just like this. And so, residing in the Dham, subsisting purely off prasadam from Vrindavan, serving Shri Radha, Shyamasundara, Lalita and Vishaka, and serving in the 24-hour kirtan program, and constantly doing parikrama, all these things, he very quickly established a very, very, very deep connection with our lordships. And this is why, even through his recordings, you can feel it. You can feel the intensity of his connection. And you could feel that Ayendra was always carrying the Lords within his heart. He actually carried a Giriraj on his chest constantly as well. So, yes, the Lord is always within the heart of the devotees. If you ever have the opportunity to hug a devotee, you can put your head on their chest and, in a sense, pay respects to the Lords within their heart. And since we have a lot of reference to the Gurvastakam, we can also bring up Shakshat Haritvena Samasta Sastra, that the spiritual master, or the Vaiṣṇava, is considered to be actually on the same platform as the devotee, as the Lord, because he is the most confidential servitor. He's engaged very intimately. He's very aligned with the will of the Lord. This is, we don't believe in this dry impersonalism or this speculative oneness. We don't, we believe that it's simply another layer of illusion that you can become one with God. And as much as the Lord might entertain that desire, what do you attain? You attain the same fate as Shishupal. Shishupal, he thought of Krishna constantly, but in a negative mood. He was constantly thinking about how much he hated Krishna. And it was said that, so the mother of Shishupal told Krishna, you have to, I think it was the mother, yes, you have to be forgiving of Shishupal, you have to be tolerating. And Krishna said, very well, I will forgive him for 100 times each day. And so Shishupal actually knew this. So what he would do is he'd wake up and he would be counting how many, he'd be insulting Krishna and he'd be counting how many times, and he'd get to 97, 98, 99, okay, I have to stop. And then he'd wait for the next day to start, and then he'd start insulting Krishna again. But, all day, 24/7, thinking of Krishna, how much he hates him. And eventually, in the at the yagya, in front of everybody, he's just he's losing the plot now, because Krishna gets glorified. They're like, who should be the recipient, who should be the main recipient of this yagya? And you have Śiva present, Brahma present, King Yudhisthira present, all these exalted personalities, and they're all thinking, okay, who should we offer this yagya to? And they all decide it should be Krishna. So Shishupal is in this moment, he's like, he's just so furious, because he already hates Krishna so much, but now Krishna's getting glorified as this incredible personality. And he can't stand it anymore. So he's like, that's it, this is my opportunity. And he just tries his best to ridicule Krishna, bring him down, and make people realize that he's not the supreme personality. And Krishna, Viṣṇu especially, and Krishna of course, but they're very they're Atmaram, they're self-satisfied, and they're entirely renounced. So they're not affected by these little tiny ant going, Shishupal's this little ant whinging, and Krishna's just there, he's just taking it all, he's just absorbing it, he's so self-satisfied, he doesn't care. But very silently, he's counting 33, 34, 35, 36, and then when it eventually gets to 100, he's like, TK. Just, chops off the head of Shishupal. And obviously, the environment of a yajna has to be very clean. And so, like, if any, all the brāhmaṇas involved in the yajna are very, very clean. The whole thing, especially imagine back then how pucka it was, right? So if by chopping the head off of Shishupal, he bled onto the yajna, the whole arena would have been ruined, and they would have had to, start fresh and completely purify the space or go somewhere else. But Krishna cut off the head of Shishupal such a clean slice that there wasn't even any drops of blood. So Shishupal couldn't even get the satisfaction of ruining the yajna. So he's like on the floor, and he's like, just fading away. But with his last amount of energy, he's trying to like spurt a little bit of blood out of his neck. He's like, come on. So he's trying really hard to just this little blood spot to come out. Just one drop, come on. To ruin this yajna. But he couldn't. So he couldn't even in his dying moments achieve his goal of insulting Krishna or, ruining the experience. But the point being is, even thinking that way, Shishupal, it said everybody in the arena saw that Shishupal's soul came out and it went to the lotus feet of Krishna. So it's not when you come to the absolute knowledge, you realize that it's not to a materialist, the impersonal realization might be such a high conception, but to the transcendentalist, to the one surrendered to Bhagavan, it's nothing. It's described that the bliss derived from the impersonal realization is like the imprint of a calf, the water that accumulates in the imprint of a calf's footprint. So it's a little tiny, cup of water. And the bliss derived from serving Bhagavan, Sri Krishna, is like an infinite ocean. And not only that, we attain fish bodies and we can swim in the ocean. Whereas the impersonalists, they don't attain a swarup, and they are just situated in the self. There's not much bliss derived from selfishness. Ultimately, it's just the highest state of selfishness. That is what the impersonal realization is. You don't want to have anything with personality or relationship, and so scarred in this world of quarrel and hypocrisy, so scarred by relationships in this world and identity in this world, and lamenting this way, they go, I wish to have no personality at God. I wish to have no personality at all. And it's really such a pity that because they're so scarred by relationships and also identifying with the false self and this current temporary body, that they give up the concept of any kind of form ever. And so this is why we describe it as spiritual suicide, because you give away everything. You give away everything, and all you really attain is some mediocre peace. Because yes, there is a bliss derived from not suffering materially, but that's not necessarily bliss. That's just freedom from suffering. So the point I was making was Shakshat Haritvena Samasta Sastre, that the devotee is one in will with the Lord, and that is true oneness. We have this beautiful, fully ripened philosophy of Achintya Veda Veda Tattva, which means we are simultaneously one and different from the Lord. And for a devotee to think of giving up his personal identity, actually simply there's nothing worse that they could think of. And so the true bliss is derived from understanding what the Lord's will is and being an empty vessel to fulfill his plan. And but we don't, that's the thing, if we think about what the Lord's will is, we're mentally speculating. So you have to come to a sadhu who has a true bona fide connection with the Lord. And where did he get that bona fide connection from? His Guru Maharaj. And that should directly link back to the Lord himself. In that way, you know directly that what is being bestowed to you is authentically the will of the Lord. Therefore, we are the Brahma Madhava Sampradaya. The Lord first imparted this transcendental knowledge to Lord Brahma, who became empty through, much tapasya. When Brahma was born out of the navel of Garbhadakashayi Viṣṇu, he was quite bewildered. All around him, all he saw was black, but he was seated on a lotus flower. But then a booming voice from all directions says, Tapa. That's all the Lord had to say to Brahma. And Brahma took faith in that and inquired deep into the self and underwent austerity. And then when the Lord was pleased, the Lord revealed himself within the heart of Brahma and then bestowed to him the Vedic knowledge and the 4 essential shlokas of the Srimad Bhagavatam as well. So we have this chain coming directly from the Lord himself. And so when Prabhupada came to the West, you have bona fide, you have the embodiment of the Lord's will. You have the Lord speaking, using Srila Prabhupada as a mouthpiece. Prabhupada on the Jaladuta, he says to Krishna, I'm a puppet, you do with me as you wish. And that's exactly what Krishna did. And look where we are now. We have, I was thinking, it had been maybe a week and I hadn't been to the temple. And when I came and I was paying dandavats to Prabhupada, I was just thinking, like, Prabhupada, I'm so grateful that wherever I go, I can find a Krishna conscious institution. When we think about it like that, that wasn't a possibility before Prabhupada. The fact that you can go many places, even in Australia, New Zealand, Southeast Asia, you can find like ISKCON everywhere. You can find an international society for Krishna consciousness. It was fully realized. This is all Prabhupada. But what is Prabhupada? He's the embodiment of the grace and mercy of Krishna. And so what is he doing? He's traveling around the world with the Lord within his heart. And he's preaching the will. And as we know, it's the will and the truth of the Lord is like a sweet milk. And not at all is Prabhupada's words tainted by the lips of the serpent. This is why we have to find a bona fide sadhu. Because if you're not coming from a bona fide sampradaya, naturally you have to wonder why there is some deviation. Like why is this guru gone off and done his own thing? And most of the time, if you look at examples like Sai Baba and stuff, they deviate, and what do? They claim they are God, and so anything they say, it's like, yes, you're receiving some milk, you're receiving something about God, but it's tainted by the lips of the serpent. So it's actually very destructive for your bhakti. But we're very fortunate that by some grace we have found ourselves in a very bona fide line. Not only that, fully surrendered to the Yuga avatar, Avatari, Sri Gora Sundara. And so, yeah, we're very lucky. Okay, what time is it? So, any questions? Anything? Yeah. Hare Krishna.
Thanks for the class. I was wondering, did the word brāhmaṇa originally emanate
Mm. So we'll flesh that out a little bit. I don't know precisely. If you might know, if anyone knows, maybe that the word brahmana came from Brahma. Do you know if that's the case? I'm not sure. No, no, yeah, yeah. So, yeah, 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 beautiful. That's very well said. So, um, but we've been warned by Prabhupada that a lot of the brahmanas, they are attracted to the flowery words of the Vedas. So they're attracted to huge portions of the Vedas naturally are talking about the three gunas, sattva, rajas, tamas gun, and how to essentially, whatever constitution you have, if you're dominated by tamas, they kind of teach you how to purify that. So, for example, they know people have an inclination. This is explained a lot in Jaiva Dharma by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, that you have people with an inclination to eat meat, so therefore the Vedas provided an opportunity to do that, and whilst at the same time relieving some of the sinful reaction from it by doing yagya, and then you obviously practice certain mantras on these animals, and the idea is if they're perfected, that animal receives improvement in the evolution of consciousness, and then that meat is then eaten by the people who have the inclination to do so, and so that purifies that. Alcohol, there was certain yagyas where wine was permitted, so that the people who had the inclination to drink, they could do it in that circumstance. Sex within marriage. I don't think gambling's ever a thing, but yeah. Point being, is the brahmanas. Yes, a lot of them are Vaiṣṇavas, but brahmana is a term for someone, as you said, someone who's realized Brahman. That can mean you have impersonalist brahmanas. You can have brahmanas who are adverse to the service of Bhagwan. You can have brahmanas who are brahmanas by name alone. They've been born into a brahminical family, but they don't actually have the qualities themselves. I think, might be wrong, but Brahma Bandhu maybe is the term. Brahma Bandhu. And so it's one thing to be a brahmana, but it's another thing to, and the brahmanas can be Vaishnavas, and that's bona fide. But I would say more or less that like all Vaishnavas are like brahmanas and more, because Vaishnav, this is again stated in Jaiva Dharma, Vaishnav is actually like transcendental to the brahmana caste, and many Vaishnavas have the qualities of a brahmana, but there's also many brahmanas who don't necessarily have the qualities of a Vaishnav, yeah. So, and you were saying, can we call Shivites Vaishnavas, Shaivites? I would say it depends on the lineage. Prabhupada, I remember in some purport he talked about a bona fide Shaivite lineage, but a lot of them you have to be very careful because they say, like the main mantra they chant is like, I am one with Śiva. So a lot of them actually, it's just another lineage of impersonalism, of wanting to become one with Śiva. And then even if you have the ones who are directly trying to serve Śiva, they see Śiva as the supreme, and that's like an offense, so I wouldn't call them a Vaishnav. But then you might have a rare case where you have someone who recognizes Viṣṇu as supreme, but they still worship Śiva, and that's fine. Like, I know many Vaishnavas who have Śiva on their altar, and they worship Śiva, but they worship him like they would worship any of our bona fide gurus in the Sampradaya, because they worship Śiva as like a very exalted Vaishnav, which is what he is. Like, so again, a lot of the Shivites won't be Vaishnavs, but then the Vaishnavs will worship Śiva, but not ever higher than Viṣṇu. As you know, like Yogurt can never become milk, but milk can become yogurt. So Viṣṇu can always become Śiva. Śiva can never become Viṣṇu. Yeah. Okay, sorry, anything? All good? Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.